Welcome to episode 13 in our series on Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto's The Way of God. And we are still in the second section, which is Providence. And we're up to Chapter 7. And this chapter is entitled The Influence of the Stars. And in this episode, this chapter, we're going to learn how stars and their planets serve as kind of pipelines, bringing influences from heaven to our physical world. So let's begin. The Ramchal begins. In the first section, we discussed how every physical phenomenon has its root among the transcendental forces. First, the thing is rooted in the spiritual realm in all the necessary ways. Afterwards, it is committed more and more to the material, until it finds itself in the form that is desired for it in the physical realm. It was for the sake of this process that the stars and planets were created. Through their movements and cycles, influences in the spiritual realm are transmitted and reflected to their physical counterparts, allowing things to exist in the material world in the physical form that was ordained for them. Regarding the stars, the highest wisdom decided their number, positioning, as well as the levels of their various divisions, in order to put the aforementioned system of transmission into operation in the necessary and appropriate way. That is, all things in the physical world are given the power to exist through influences transmitted to them via their respective stars. For through the agency of the stars, each thing's essence is brought to earth, reflected from its spiritual roots on high, down to the physical. There is another function that God assigned to the stars. Every event and situation in the material world is prepared and initiated on high, and then is transmitted via the stars, step by step, finally appearing in the desired physical forms below. For example, life itself, wealth, wisdom, children, and so forth, all originate on high in the realm of the spiritual roots, reflected down through branches of these roots, through the agency of particular stars, so that the different phenomena take form on earth in their desired states. This is the result of particular divisions and combinations of the stars, following their specific cycles. Every event that takes place in the terrestrial world is allocated to a particular star, depending on its specific category. All terrestrial things are bound under their authority. Through their systems, all things happen as a result of the influence emanating from the stellar array through its connection with each individual thing. Every human being is also subjugated to this system, and whatever happens to him is a result of this astrological influence. It is also possible, however, that this stellar influence be overridden by a higher power. This is normally true in the case of the Jews, and accordingly our sages teach us, and I quote, "There is no constellation or mazal for Israel." The power of God's decrees and influence is stronger than that of the stars, and what results is therefore dependent on this higher influence rather than on the astrological. This system whereby stars transmit spiritual influences is itself circumscribed by laws and limitation, in ways which the highest wisdom deems appropriate. Observation supplies a very small amount of information about the system as a whole, and it is the small observable component that constitutes astrology. In that the true actual organization of this system is not ascertainable through observation. Astrologers attempting to predict the future are very rarely able to do so accurately, and what they do see is not seen clearly. Their ability to predict is further reduced by the fact that sometimes Providence intervenes in earthly matters, and this overrides the stellar system entirely, as mentioned previously. This is the meaning of what the prophet said, and I quote from Yeshayahu 47:13. Now let the astrologers, stargazers, and fortune tellers stand up and tell you something about what will come upon you. Our sages tell us that this means that they can predict something, but certainly not everything. And that concludes that chapter. So very interesting. It seems, as we know, the science has been telling us for decades that the constitutions that make up a star are what makes us up as well. The raw materials, stardust, is present in all of us, or rather we are combinations of stars physically. But it seems the Ramchal is telling us here that actually it's more than just that. Or rather, not only that, but not only our physical makeup is like stardust, also our spiritual influence is also made up of the spiritual influences that are put out by stars and their planets. This is very interesting. It's quite a short chapter, and he doesn't really discuss about it anymore. So I guess we have to leave it at that. But that's an interesting chapter that perhaps we are somehow governed by. The Rambam has quoted in his Mishnah Torah, Yesodei HaTorah, that all of the constellations and all the stars and planets, they all have a soul, which was a very strange thing to learn when I learned it, because you think that these kind of rocky places, or these kind of, they seem like very pure material things, like a star. How can they have a soul? But the Rambam clearly stated that in Yesodei HaTorah. And here the Ramchal is expanding on that and saying not only do they have a soul, but somehow our souls are linked to them as well. So it's a very interesting chapter, and I look forward to the next episode, which is the very last chapter of this Providence section, and it is entitled Details of Providence, and I look forward to delivering that.